Hello, I'm Colin Bradley. Some while ago, one of our members sent me this picture, asking if I could give some advice on how to go about it. Well, I did that, but I was so impressed with the picture that I asked the gentleman if I could possibly do it for you, everyone, because I think you'd love to see this. As you know, I've been doing a lot of shadow pictures using the four colours here. That's two Faber-Castell and two Cretacolor, and it's been very successful. So what I plan to do here is to do the same thing on the same paper, that's the dark grey Pastelmat, and reproduce this picture. And I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope you are too. Incidentally, the lady's name, we believe, is Evelyn Nesbit. Evelyn Nesbit. Now, I can't prove that, and neither can the gentleman, but he must have got it from somewhere. So we'll call her Evelyn for the moment. Okay, I'm going to get started, and as usual, I'll be starting with the lighter colours here, and I want to do the face first. I'll be changing quite a lot of the background because I want it to be in the shadow idea, but I'll make it this dark, and this will be, won't be as light as that, but it'll be a little lighter, so we have the contrast. Anyway, as I say, I'm looking forward to it, so let's get on with it. I'm going to start on the face, as I said, but it's going to take a little bit of thought because a lot of this is in shadow. I'm going to start using I've got what it was at the moment. My goodness, I should know that. 270 it is in Faber-Castell. It could be that every now and again you'll find me going quiet because I've got to concentrate on this. It's a little bit trickier than the shadow pictures I've been used to. So I've got to think about it. Now, this is going to be really dark over here. So what I want to do is to put the 270 on just the same, but not as intense as I have, or will, down here. Now, when you come down to the nose, what I can do is I can do this in little bits. I'll show you the nose section. And this is quite light, so I'm putting a little more pressure on that now to establish the light. And I'm going to do the same as I do with the other shadow pictures, and that is work the dark in as well. And that includes the background, because it's all about contrast. Okay, I'll leave that there at the moment, because I want to show you something else we can do. Right on this section here, it's really light. So let's just join that up. And under here, it's quite dark. So once again, like I did there, I'm not going to make it quite so intense. And between here and here, it's light from there, then it goes a little darker. And that's light. Now, I am taking my time with this because it is, as I said, it's going to be a tricky old subject to do. But I'm trying to get this in so I can show you the next colour. This is going to be white. Now, the white, you don't put the white on first on anything like this, because unless it's really intense, but it goes on top of the 270 grey. Now here, this is where it's light. So using the white, sort of really like a blender, you're blending that other colour underneath in, but you're blending the two colours together. So you see how light that is there? That's about as light as I want it. But if I wanted it darker, I can use the 270 back in again and do that. And I'm going to practice on the nose, I think, because first of all, it's the most interesting feature we have. You see, the eye is normally, but the eye is very dark because she's in shadow. So that's as far as I think I want the white to go. Now let's just carry on now with the 270. And when you do that, you can go back over again, because what you're doing is you don't want to make it chalk and cheese. You don't want it light and dark. You want it sort of a graduation all the time. So we can now combine those together. And in a little while, I could be putting the dark colour on. Okay. Now, I think what I want to do is just shape the nose. There is just a faint trace. I wonder if I can put it in now. Let's see if I can. I probably can't. I've probably got to put the dark colour in. But the eye here, you can just see it, but you can't see very much of it. What I'll do, I think, is do that. That's where the line will come, the shadow. But I'm going to put it in really, really light now, as light as I can possibly get it. In other words, using the colour of the paper as like a background colour for this. Like I say, this is going to be a tricky one, but it's really interesting to do something like this. That's it. Now that's the other eye. It's the eyelid, of course, but we can sort that out. Now, what I'm going to do now, I have to sharpen that up. That's a bit blunt. And then I'm going to come in here because I want to ascertain the contrast that I'm looking for in this area first. So bear with me. It's going to take a little while, but it's going to work out in the end. Let me sharpen that up. Now, as you can see, I've just filled that in a bit more, exactly as I showed you before. This is an area, once again, on the high cheekbone that is light, just the same as the nose. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just practice up here. This is very dark, but not as dark as it's going to be here in a second or two. So what you do is creep up on it gently using the 229. This is 229. All right, and that will round circular movements. We're going to be using the colour shaper in a minute. And the other thing I have done here, I put an eyebrow in. And I did that when I was using the 270 just now. That's going to disappear in here eventually. In fact, I'll put that in. Put a line in there so that we know what we're going to be doing. That is going to be the hair that's going to come down. Now that's going to be very dark, so you don't put anything underneath that. There will be places where I will. A lot of these lines you see here are going to indicate that I'm going to put some light on before I put the dark on. But in here, it's pretty dark. There's another way we can do it too. We can put the light on top of the dark, but you've got to be careful. Now, so let's get that established there. Then we can take it a bit further. I want to show you how this, in fact, I'll come down here as well because I can show you how we can blend it now. Do it lightly, because what we don't want is any dark 229 to touch anywhere we haven't put the light in. No, that's all right. Looks silly, doesn't it? But it won't, folks. Trust me. And the other thing I will do is I'm going to use the sharp point of my 229 to just bring that into play. The more you can do like this, the easier it is for you, just like a drawing. We can't use graphite, otherwise I would do. On here it doesn't show up. And that's all right. Now let's just do the same thing, I think, here. Let's come down here. Now, I haven't a clue, really, how this is going to work, but because I haven't done anything quite like it before. I can't really call on all the shadow pictures I've done because they're not as light and as intricate as this. But by doing that, it gives me the shape of the face that I'm looking for. Yeah. Okay, so that's got that. Now let's see what we can do with the color shaper. I've got two color shapers here, the pointed one and the flat chisel. I'm going to try the flat chisel because, and there are going to be times when I can use my finger, but I can't use it there. I haven't got I wouldn't be able to create the detail I want, but this will do the job for me. Now that's working only because I put the base color underneath. If I just put the dark brown grey on, I wouldn't have had the same results. Now that's coming up as I expected, so that's fine. It doesn't look quite so scruffy now, does it? And in here too. I get further down on the face, I can start using my finger, which I prefer to use, but this is more delicate. Now you'll be looking at my reference picture. I'm looking at the photographic reference. Just wanted to see what this would look like without any of the dark on. See, I pick it up from here anyway, so I've got some on it already. Well, what I want to do is get that eye in as soon as I can. Now the shadow comes down to about there, so let's continue with it. Then I can show you the contrast between the light and the dark then. It's quite dark around the eye. This is an advanced picture, and I've got to tell you, normally the shadow pictures aren't. I put them in the intermediate category, but this is going to be advanced. Doesn't mean to say you can't have a go at it, but if you do, lower your expectations. You see how delicate you can be with this. So that's going to be a little bit darker than it is there eventually. Now, let's carry on here, because around the eye, we've got the shadow. And it comes like that around, and then you've got the cheek. And I can't emphasize enough how light the application is. I'm just letting the pencil rest on the paper, no pressure. Pastelmat and the pastel pencils are very responsive to this. You won't have any problem as long as you do it right. See, it's like this looks like that when I started out, so you can see that and it's always worth doing some as well. It gives you confidence. See, I've got the confidence now that I know that's going to react the same way as it did up there. I blend it. And the other thing is there's always a transition between the light and the dark. So this way you can drag your colour onto it. Doesn't matter if you make it darker, you can always put the light back on. But what you've got to do is have a blend, a nice blend of colour like that, you see? Can't have it chalk and cheese like that. That's got to be subdued. And of course, nothing really works that well until you put the features in. And once I put the eye in, and we got the nose in, you get a bit more confidence. And this is where we can drag some of the colour, because I don't want that to be quite as light here as I've got it. So you can drag that colour. I'm going to have to put more on there anyway, onto there. Therefore, it gives you another tone. See how it's working? Right, well, now I'm going to carry on with that. I'm not going to do anything that is important. I'm just going to carry on working through so that perhaps I can get the whole of the top of the head of the face done there. Probably won't worry with the lips at the moment because they're very dark, but I want to get that in so that I can come back in and start working on my contrast up here. Now, by no means finished on that face, but what I want to do is put the eye in and I'll put the hair in, because that will give me the contrast. Now, I'd say I wasn't going to put this in, but I am going to just lightly touch it in places where I want it to be just that little bit lighter. You'll see the sense of that in a little while. And there's a little bit there. But most of this is going to be dark, but I just want some highlights of light underneath. And here, where I said we are going to have some light, we can put it on afterwards, but be honest, it's a good idea to do it before you put the dark on. You get a better effect that way. And the hair comes down here. I don't know whether I want to do all of this, but I want to put enough so that I can see the contrast between the hair and the face, because that's critical. This has got to be darker, but it can't be darker until I get the contrast in, if you see what I mean. So I'm going to do that now. Now, this is a bit fearful when you first start off. That is shadow up there. So we establish that straight away. Right, I'm going to turn it round because I've got a better angle with my hand. Now, when I come down here, let's draw the outline first before we start filling it in. Now, if you go over those light bits, you see, you can still see them like that. Same here. You've always got the black, which I shall put on in a little while, to give us extra strength, but you can't have it on the outside of that. You see how that works, that light? And some of this I've got to make up because I can't see it. And, of course, we've always got the artistic license. As I've said before, that's not an excuse. It's your means to put your own stamp on what you see. Now, I can't have that light down there, so I've got to cover that up. And I cover that up with the brown, grey. Right. Now, I wouldn't just fill that in. I'd imagine that you're putting hair in. Even though you can't see it. Now, this is where it becomes critical now, because we've got the shape of the face if we get it wrong. There's a little bump there, which I got rid of now. Now, I know that's miles too light, but I'm going to account for that in a minute. But already you can see the difference this is making to the face, and how important it is to put it in. I'm going to put the black on, but I don't think I necessarily need to do it yet. This is where we've got to be careful. Lightly again, colour shaper, pointed one probably better. And I want to put it in, but I want to hide it. If you think I haven't hidden it enough, well, I have, because when I put the black in there, which I will, well, that's all I want to do at the moment. I might come back to it. Right, so that's the hair. And you can see that does make a difference, doesn't it? Let's just see what happens when we put the black in. Now, the black can go wherever you want it to go, but you've got to remember that you're going to be able to leave some of that dark brown like that. That adds to the light that we've already put in there. You see that? Now that's quite attractive. That's not quite what I can see on the reference picture, but you see how light that is now. That's why it's so important to get this depth in. Don't like that at the moment, so let's get rid of it. This is the trace down line. So you can't put it on in graphite, you've got to put it in white trace down, but you have to cover them up. This is now telling me how light that is. That's what I've got to come back to. Right, well, I'm going to carry on with the hair now, right down here. So you'll see how that looks. And then we can come back into the face, do the eye, which is probably the next thing I shall do after finishing this hair off. Even that nose now, I did put it in white, but it's going to have to be darkened slightly. Now, instead of putting the black on here, we can drag it. You could argue, well, do we need it? Well, we do really, because it would be there. And if you don't put it in or don't indicate it at all, it might just look a little odd. Now use the colour shaper here as well to just blend some of that in. Might have to go back over that once I've got the face in as I want it. Okay, good. Now, that's what we'll do. Let me do the hair. I did start, and you saw me do this. Well, let me just show you now. I've got your attention on that. It is quite hard because what we've got to do here is do the, I'm going to use the 270 to start with, put that light on. Don't try putting light on its own, the white on its own. It's too bright. And then we can bring the white back into it. Like that. And there's some in there, which means you've got to have a little bit of contrast on that edge. Like that. And then you've got to come down. Like that. And on the other side, we've got white again, or light again. But we can, because I put white on that, I think I can get the 270 in there. These little areas are tricky areas because if you get it wrong, it doesn't look right. Some shadow of that as well to put in. Right, let's come back in with the white there. Make that just a little crisper. That a little crisper. And What I'm trying to do is to make this a little darker so we have the earring standing out. Another area we've got to worry about is inside there. Same idea. Just a little bit of, not wet one, a little bit of that in there, just a touch, to put a contrast between that and that. Pointed one now. You see what I mean? I said it's a bit tricky. Now that's too light. That's all right. That's a shadow, which is fine. And we can pull from that another shadow, which will be there. The earring. I don't think I'd use black here at all. Just make that crisper. The white in again. There you see we got that coming up nicely against that background. So a little bit of shadow in there. Well, that's all shadow there. I think we can put some white then. White in there, but not quite as much. That's not bad. I'm going to sharpen this up, then I can get just a little more definition on that. Right. Okay, so I'm leaving that for the moment, and then I'm going to come back to it when I've got a sharp point and then carry on with the hair. Well, you saw how that was developed, and that's come up very well. You see how important it is to put that light on there. Now I'm going to put some black in now, and this is really point of no return. Now I want to put the black here. She's got a kind of bonnet on there. It's like a scarf. So what I'm going, and it's not very easy to see on the original picture. I've come along with a dark colour, 229, and now I'm following it with the black. The hair pokes out from that, so I'm trying to get that effect as well, coming from there. Now, those little light bits are quite nice to have. Now this is when we can come back in with the black. Now the black really does give it depth. But we've already established the style that I wanted for that. So it's not going to be quite so hard to elaborate on that. And you've got to make a lot of this up because you can't see. And if I did it again, I'd probably do it differently. You've just got to follow your instincts. A little bit of black in here. You can always put some light back if you need to. And you've got to be careful. Yeah, I quite like the style I've got there. Let's see what we can do. You can't use a finger on here. You've got to use a colour shaper, because it would just blanket it effectively and all smudged together. With a colour shaper, you've got that control. Follow the same sweep that we did before. Now, I haven't put light back on here, so that's all left as it was. But I will do, I probably won't do it at the moment. I'm going to wait until I get a bit further on. And you saw how I brought the shadow on the face. So you've got the shadow on the face and the hair almost amalgamating, which it does on the picture. Good. And that's good. Now we've got to get an eye in there. There's no way I'm going to get away with that anymore. But you can see how it's beginning to shape up. So I've got to sharpen pencils, make sure all the pencils are sharp. I probably won't use the white. There is white in the eye. Let me just bring the picture back so you see what I'm talking about. There's a little bit of light in the eye there. But to be honest, I think we will use the 270 for that. I think the white will be too fierce. Let's see. Now for the eyes. $270. $299. No need to tell you, this is going to be very delicate. Take lots of time. And underneath here, there's not so much an eyelid, a dark line, as it's going to be dark like that, shaded. We've got to have it a little bit at the top because that's where the eyelids would be. Now, and let's put that a little bit more on there. And now, that's just a little of the 270. All of this has got to be quietened down, but you've got to start off with it a little lighter. And there's another area just above that. And again, just like under here, all of this is going to be dark. You're not going to see any detail as such. All we're going to do is imply it. And then we can darken it still further. Start from here and spread out. That's the idea of this. Now, this is quite light or lighter here. Okay, let's just, again, a very light touch. It looks as though I'm putting a lot on, but I am, but I'm doing it in very gradual stages so that I limit. You'll see quite a difference in a minute on that eye, especially when I've got the pupil in, which I'm going to do in a minute. And that comes down here. And it joins with this one. Really stands out now, doesn't it? And I'm doing it the way I'm doing it because I want you to see the impact when I come back in there. And another thing that I've got to do here is just change the shape of the eye slightly, because we're looking up at the young lady, or she's got her head tilted back, should I say. We're seeing it slightly different. It's not going to be a round eye. It's seeing on the side. That's more like it, I think. And now it's coming on all right. What do I want here? Well, now let's come in now at the same time with the eyebrow, because that's going to be quite dark. And because we've only got the four colours, you've got to use the light and dark aspect of all of this. So that's going to be just a little darker. You see what I mean? And it comes in here, and again, it's not as light as that. You get the idea of why I was saying it's going to be an advanced picture, because all of this is so important. Anything here goes wrong, it's just not going to look right. Now there is still shadow on here too, but it's not as severe as it is there. So while we're on the winning streak, let's bring that down. That kind of strength I'm looking for, and that can stretch right down to give us a little bit more shape to the nose. I think I probably am going to stop there. While we're in the mood, I'm also going to do this area of the nose, and then come back in, same strength. If you overdo it, we can always come back with the 270. We can't leave that like that. That's got to be whittled back. Like that. Right. Now I'm going to use a colour shaper. Yeah, I think I'll use this one. This is just to smooth it out, really, because it's just a little too concentrated in areas. That smooths it out. to there where we got the light. And in here too. Now, as we do this, what we can also do is make that top eyelid just a little darker. Not by applying more colour, well, not from the pencil anyway, but from the colour shaper. Like that. Spread it. Got it on there, you can. If it doesn't appear to be enough, we can always add more, but I think that looks good. And magic tools, these are. I've said a few times that if they took them away from me now, I really would lose out on a very good, useful tool. That's coming along. And I'm just going to put my finger on. Putting your finger on just smooths it out just a little bit more. Good. And that's pretty good. I mean, we're going to put some more colour on it. Let's put some on. But we know where we're going now with it. A little bit of white. There we go. Now, use the colour shaper again. This time I'm going to just take some of that off. And now we can make that look a little more smooth. Like that. Right. Okay. Now what we've been waiting for is the pupil. Fit it in. I don't know, I've got to sharpen the black up. Now with a nice sharp black, and just put the eyelid in again. We can't put in much detail in because it's very dark, but I'm just going to make the centre a bit darker. You're probably not going to pick that up. And pointed one now. Pointed one. Again, just use the colour shaper, just pull that down just a little more. Like that. Now we need some depth here, so I think we'll use the black. It needs to be a little darker. If you use the other one, 229, you'd have to press a bit harder, and you don't really want to do that. And the other thing is, if we can, we just want just a little bit of depth on the top of the eye. If you've seen me use this before, I've done it many times. Can't necessarily see it on the picture, but it looks better if you do that. And I think I'm going to try this. It may not work, but I'm going to try. I'm just going to put just a little bit of light in there, like that. See whether it works. It's not on the picture, on the photograph rather. But I've done it before a few times, and I think that would work. Well, I'm going to leave it. What I could do as well, having got that in, I could also put the pupil in as well. I think that works. What about eyelashes? Now, this is a thing you've got to be careful of, because if we make it too obvious, but I think just a little touch would be nice. Sharp black, put a little bit on there, and maybe a bit there, but don't do this if you're in any way unhappy about it, but I think it looks good. I think, though, having looked at it now, it's too white. So now we just go with our colour shaper and pull it back a little more. If I overdo it, I can put that back in. Show you what I mean. But I don't want it to be too bright. That looks good. We'll leave it like that for the moment. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to finish this off. I think I'm going to do this before I tackle this area over here. This is quite a complex one, but it's really similar to this. So you've seen me do it. But I think we'll finish this off. Now, the lips are the other thing. But I think I'm going to do the lips in this area. So we'll come down to, say, here. All right. That's as far as I'm going to come. I'm going to start with the, as before, with the light grey, and 270, remind myself. Come down on that line, so that that line becomes the grey, and we'll finish it off. There's a lot of light and dark in this, much the same as that, so that's going to be interesting to see done. I've got also a dilemma here, and I'll tell you what it is. On the reference picture, we've got this area dark all the way down here with a light background. But no, I can't. I've got to do it that way. The simple reason is I've got the hair, and I can't have a dark background with dark hair. It just won't work. Which means we might as well put a test run in, put that in there. That's how it's going to be all the way up there. It'll be a lot darker than that, but not as dark. And come around here. Now, when you do this, you can use the paper. You see how I've just left just a tiny little bit of paper showing through. One of the benefits of having dark grey paper. I'm doing this because I'm going to do the same thing with the lips in a minute. And that'll be filled in. That'll be light. And that's going to be lighter than that. And that goes out there. So, and I think I'm going to need to do that before I complete the rest of the picture. So that's going to have to be done, and that's going to have to be done. So I've got to do this with the lips and the It's not a bonnet. You've got like a scarf thing coming over here. I don't know what it is, and it's got a bow on it up there, which I can represent. And then you've got the hair. This actually travels, show you what I mean. It comes down here like this, and it tucks under. As far as I can make out on the picture, it takes under there, so it ties at the back. So what you have, it might make him come a little bit lower, like that, and it ties at the back, and all the rest of this is hair in here. Complicated, but really interesting. So let me carry on with this. I'll show you little bits as this as I go along. I'll come back in when we come to do the lips, because that's tricky. And another thing, I can show you what's going to happen here. Remember I did that left that line. Well, now I'm going to come the other side of that there, and that means the nose is going to be dark. I'll just leave that. It's a little bit darker. And then you can guess what I'm going to be doing with that later on. Looks silly now, but it won't when I finish. Well, I bet you're thinking, what a lovely bearded lady you've done, Colin. Well, I have, haven't I? However, that's all going to change in a moment or two. Let's just put that. I'm going to start the lips as well. All this has got to be done in one go. And the teeth. Teeth? Gosh. Well, implication of teeth. Bit like the eye, really. Can't put it in. Teeth in. It looks silly. And what we can do is do that, which gives us our profile. Having done that, we can then use 270 to cut round it. Remember, this is going to be lighter. I hope you're enjoying this. I certainly am. It is a hard picture, but a lot of rewards. You've got to be careful here not to make that chin jut out too much. I may have to do some adjustment. Evelyn Nesbit is no longer around, so she's not going to be critical of her portrait. This is where we've got to be careful not to do too sharp. That looks all right to me at the moment. As you're coming round here, you've now really got a good idea of how that's going to look. But I assure you, she's not going to have a beard. She's a sharper. I've got several of these smaller ones. I've run it down so that I've got to use the small ones up. And you can imagine I've done a lot of these, all with the same coloured pencil, so you don't last that long. Now I've got to be careful here, because here we come into a dress, and that's going to be light. So let's put that in there so that we know what's coming later on. And that is obviously going to be filled in. Now I can do that off camera. What I'll do as well, if I do that, I'll do that, and with just a little hint of depth in it, so I don't lose that line. Right. You can leave that to me. I'll finish that. And then what I'm going to do then, I think in fact, I can do it now, show you. I want to lightly put this on now. I know I've got dark colour to go in here, but I just think it might be better if I put an undercolour of 270 in case I want to use it to give a little light in the lip. There we are, like that. And then I shall put I might as well do it. This is nowhere near finished yet. There's a long way to go. But by getting it all in, you can put one against the other and compare. That's one. And the other side, well, this isn't quite so strong. This is what I mean. I could leave this lip just slightly lighter than that one, which will come down here. And we've got teeth in the middle of there too. Let's do that for the moment. Yes, I can leave this slightly lighter, like that. Now, maybe it doesn't look that much lighter, but it will do when I put the dark on. Like if I put the black on, for instance, which will be going in here. And then it shows that lip as being that little bit lighter. See? You have to be darker than that, but we'll leave it for the moment. This is going to be darker than that. This is going to be darker than that. And this is going to be dark as well. I might as well do the lips while I've got your attention. It's very rewarding, especially when you take your time, like I am, and you start seeing the image come to life. You see, look how good that looks. Now, what I've got to do, I think, is cut that lip down just a little bit. I was talking about teeth. Well, the teeth would be there, but I don't think we can put them in. Down here and then come out a bit so that we have an obvious lip shape. That looks good. This is going to be darker too. Now you see what I mean now by putting something like that, and you can see that this has got to be a lot darker. That's got to be a lot darker too. In fact, I think we're going to have to come down here, there with that, because if we're going to have a lighter background, it'll clash. A little bit of artistic license. It is light on the picture, but I think we're going to have to compromise a little bit on that. Use the colour shaper. That's fine, but I'm going to lighten it up a little more than that. A little bit more light in there. It's coming. Yeah. Good. Well, we're getting there now. So watch me as I finish this off. You'll see what I did there. I think I showed you that, didn't I? What I'm doing is using the colour that I put on there and then just melt it in like that. So we have a shadow look. And it comes up and stops there. More or less as I want it. So that's the effect you're going to see in a minute when I finish that off. Now, I've decided to finish the skin off, but what I've got to do here is something a little different, because the skin, or the neck and the top of the chest comes to here, but there's some sheer fabric, and I'm going to show you how we can get to do that. Come back up here with this one. I'd already put this on, which I'm going to continue to do. This is the 270, like that. And I think you'll find this really interesting. Now this is very dark, and when it comes down here, it almost disappears in the depth of the colour there. But that's later on. Let's do this first of all. Now I'm going to use the white for the first time. I haven't used this raw on the paper, but I want to here because this is a very light, bright flower. So I want it to be a stopping point for me. I don't have to complete it. I just put it in, but I've done it in white because we're going to be putting the 270 on it. Just make sure that's solid there. Now another thing we've got here is this. This is another area that I'm going to use the white. It's all part of the dress. Okay, now we come down with this. And this works in the same way. I put the light on and then the dark over the top. If I put the light over the top, I can still see the dark line underneath. Like that. Right. Now, colour shaper. I can use the other one. I want to blend that in. You need to do it twice. You won't get away with it the first time. Because the paper shows through. I've had to do all of this twice. You've got to fill the tooth up. And come into there, around there. Because I've got the white on, I can see the difference, that this is going to be dark. And then get a bit stronger. Right. Now fill this up. Make that line just a little bit more pronounced. Yeah, maybe that one too. Now, we've got, let me just do, I'm going to put this in white really. It should be done in 270, but I've got to make that quite bright behind it. So leave that for the moment like that. And now the 270. Sorry, 229. Start with the obvious, which is there. And the purpose of this now was that little flower, tip of that flower coming in there. This has got to look like that. Now, the light stretches down here, and let me just draw that very lightly, like that. and it comes in and almost fades away there. So everything this side of that line is going to be the grey-brown on top. And as you've seen before, this does blend in like that, although it looks a bit odd when you do it. The other thing I thought, I should have that there, protecting the paper. You want to get it as smooth as you can, but because we're using a point of the pencil, it's not going to be easy. And because we've got that colour underneath it, the 270 underneath it, we're always going to have a... See how we get on? Yes, it's always going to be slightly lighter. On this edge, we do the best we can to do that, which means it doesn't matter if it goes on there, it's got to go on there anyway. Because we've also got a shoulder bone that comes in here. I'll show you that in a minute. It's not very obvious, but we can put it in now. Just put quite a bit of pressure on this when you do it, so it really pushes it into the paper. As I say, we've got to do it again. Now, the thing is, you see that line there, that light line? Well, that is the neck. I've miscalculated that. So let's see if we can redo it. So it doesn't matter that much. It's not going to be that obvious, but that's what I should be up there. And this can come back. That'll be solid. And that will be darker than that, because we've got to have a contrast against this. But we can also put the 270 on here now. And just to show you the contrast, this will have this on top of that. I'm not sure yet how light this can be, so I'm not going to go overboard with it. I'll use a colour shaper to push that in. You see that's light enough to give the neck the contrast that I'm looking for. The background would have to be done again too. You see how much what's stronger it is when you do that. Fills the paper up. Good. Now that's got that. The idea, and that would be light behind there, and be lighter there, and dark, of course, on the neck. So I'm going to carry on with this a little bit longer, but before I do that, I'm going to show you how we work this transparency. This is like a sheer fabric. We're looking at the neck through. So let's just move this over just a bit so I can get a better angle. Bear in mind that this is going to be dark. It's got to be dark on the edge, otherwise it won't show up against the white or light neck. Now I'm hoping that when I blend that, do what I want it to do. Oh, it's not bad. Let's just some more light in it. I like to think that you're actually looking at the neck through a sheer fabric. But I think we can. I think that's fine. Right, I'm going to finish this off now. I want to get it finished because I want to move up to the hair and the band that goes around there. Right, now we've got the top of the head and the scarf. Same idea as we did with the hair. Put in the light creases. They can fade as we go back there. I don't know what that is, so I'm not going to bother with it. I saw it on the original, drew it in, but I can't make head nor tail of what it is, so we won't have it. And there's a crease that comes down here, which follows on like that. Okay. And it's very dark there. I think that's enough. I'll work with that. Now on the back here, and this is a bow, so I'm just going to put a little bit of colour in it. And this is hair, and she's got it in like ringlets, and very attractive. I can pull it off. Like that. This one is like a double, like that, and like that. And what I do is I do the obvious ones and then work the rest out. Another one here. Another one. That one then. And I've no doubt that I shall find some more, but it's nice having the grey paper. You can see how much you need to leave and how much you can use the paper, like I'm doing now, for a bit of shading. And then coming with this one. So to start with, I'm going to draw in the outside edge of that. Make sure you can see it, everything. I have a habit when I turn things round to lose you. I go merrily on my way, chatting away, and then suddenly look at the monitor and think, oh dear. It doesn't happen often, thank goodness. Now, I didn't want it to be absolutely square, you see. So that looks good to me. Now that does have to be okay. Let me do one of these, and then I can work my way through showing you little bits and bobs. Now, I'm going to do the opposite now. This is the dark. I've got the light, and then I'm going to put the dark in. See, got that. And here as well. Leave the light. I'll subdue it, but we have to have the contrast. Let's do this one. This is a tricky old one. I've got to make it look as though it's a bow that's in her head. I want to keep it fairly light here. Okay, let's do the top of this one, and then I will leave you. It's got to be dark at the top. And now I can do what I did before with the hair. I can go over these light areas. And then I can pick them up later. And so on, and so on. All the way down. I'm keeping it quite light on the edge of this. Remember, I mentioned that earlier, because I want it to have a contrast between the hair and this scarf. I'm making that fairly strong, and I'll tell you why in a minute. I'll show you why. The black now can come in again. It can be dark on the top edge. And we can bring it in. But this has got to be light, so and bring it in like that, so we leave the light trace there. I'll go all the way down with that so you can see. If I misjudge it and it becomes too dark, I can put some light back on. But I think you can see that now, what I'm after. And we use the colour shaper. Yeah, that's all. I don't want it to be that obvious, you see. It's just enough. I can always come back into the hair with the other side of that, with the black, and give myself that and a bit of light that I wanted. Like that. So watch as I work my way through there, and once that's done, you then move on to the dress. There's not much of this. Let's just pull this up. Oh, in fact, I'll show you the original. There's not much of this, look. And what I'm going to do is, if you've seen the shadow pictures, I shall be putting all this in dark, leaving a little bit of light down here. Nothing like that. It will be probably like this all round. I won't have as much light on it. But down here, the dress will fade in to the dark. I'm looking forward to that. These are going to be a bit tricky, but very necessary to the picture. So here we go. We're on our way. Watch me as I do that. Now, the next phase of the operation is to bring the background down to about there, I would say, okay, which encompasses this area, the neck. But before I do that, what I want to do is just put some light there. And on the other side here, ignore that line. I've decided against doing that. Now, this means that what I'm going to do here, and I'm going to draw another line on this side of this, lightly, so that I can put the .270 up against it. And you'll see all the sense of this as we progress, because what I want to do is light and dark, light and dark, light and dark all the way around. But I also want to make it a shadow picture. So it's going to be deep in shadow in places. Now I'm going to do that all the way around and to here. And once again, I'm going to do the same thing here. Now, I've not done anything like this before, so I'm playing it by ear. But what will happen is this will, I can also do this very lightly, like that. So now I've got something to go up to, and I should be doing the same thing here. But this will be much darker here against the neck. Now, you can leave this to me. What I'm going to be doing is, I say, go right across here, probably across to about there, and I shall fill this in with this. And I'm going to do it in various weights. In other words, let me show you what I mean. This is going to be quite strong over here, but we'll still be putting 229 on. Right. Over here will be weaker. We're putting 229 on. Now, the theory is, if I do that, I'm going to have a base color under here, which I can regulate according to the contrast I want here. But that's got to be lighter because we've got a dark area here that's going to have to be shown up. We've got a light area here that's going to be shown up. And we've got hair, of course. It's not very easy, but I love doing this kind of thing, so I'm going to enjoy myself. But obviously, it's going to take me a little time, so there's no point in watching me do all of this preparation. But once I've done it all, I'll show you what I've done. And that's the first coat. And what I'm going to do is blend it with my finger. Now, this won't rub in completely. Pastelmat needs more than this on it, but it's enough to give me the base color for the next tone that I'm going to put in, 229. So I'm going to go all the way around using my finger. Now I'm going to do two test pieces, one here and one there. This one is going to be stronger and darker, but what I've got to do is make it nice and strong against the neck, but strong enough here so that the dark color of the hair will stand out against it. Got it? Now it's only a test piece, so I'm only going to go as far as there. And I'm being very tentative because I'm not quite sure how this is going to work out. with only the 4 colours, I'm not going to choose another base colour, which I normally would put on before I put this on. But I don't want to do that. I want to stick to the same pencils we use. But I'm trying hard to make it as solid as I can. I have to do a little bit more because I'm going to use my finger here. Come up just a bit further. I think that'll be all right. Now, as I said before, the finger is the best blending tool we have. Let me just see how that comes out. That's not bad. It's come out quite well. But I think we're going to need another coat on there. So, and this is both colours. So this can go on top of this. I'll leave just that little section there, and you can see how much of an improvement this has made. It's a lot of work involved, but it's worth it if it comes out all right in the end. Now you see that's a little more solid now. I'm going to put this back on again, the 229, and effectively we're putting a second coat on. But because we've got more pastel on there now, it should come up nice and smooth. I'm going to have to do that even with the darker colours as well. That's as far as I want to go. There's not a lot of difference between this and this, but I'm hoping when I put the finger on it, it will be. Yes, it is. Do you see how much smoother that is than that? And I'm going to take a chance and try to get as close as I can to the neck. There you go. Look at that. Now that's the colour I want there, all the way around. And what about over here then? And just in case you're wondering, yes, I can come back over here and just make sure that that's nice and crisp on the edges. No need for me to touch that again then. Like that. Over here. Now this is going to be lighter. It should be better because I put a stronger coat of the uh, 270 on. I do a little bit more of that, come down to about there. And there we are. Now I've done a little bit more, and I've also brought you a little closer. Now this should look the same as that, because that's how I did that. This time I've got to be careful. I want to go right up to close to that chin. And what do I think of that? Well, I do, but I'm going to have to make it darker and see what we can do with the colour shaper. Best to clean it off, even though we're going to put more of that on there. Come right up close to the edge of the chin. Push it up with the colour shaper so that you've got the colour nice and smooth. That's nice. Now that's about right there. And it should be okay here. Okay, a little bit of adjustment. And you can use the 270, come back in there if you want. If it comes a little bit rough, and just a little bit more of your 229, same idea again, push it up, right up to the edge. Now it does, it's a bit fiddly, but it does work. You've just got to keep at it. As long as you're filling the paper up, which we are now, well, that's fine. Now that's nice and smooth. And once again, if you need to, you can easily come back on the chin again and re-establish that. But it might be worth coming all the way around there. I would have had to done this anyway, because I wouldn't have known until now how that contrast would be working, but it is working very well. Color shaper, pointed one this time. Right, now that's not, however, you've also got a line down there. Well, now the reason that line is there, because I'm going to make it a little darker here. And I think I'll even take a chance and come up into here with this. Now, this is a very subtle change of tone I'm trying to achieve here. I want it light there, but I want the start, really, of the shadow that's going to come down here. You can't see that. Down here later on. I know what I'm aiming for, but I thought now I'm nice and close to this for you. You can see what I'm aiming for. And of course, I'll be doing it right across there. And there'll be a transition between this colour and this colour. I can start the ball rolling with my finger, but it's going to have to be colour shaper then. Now, I might have to do this a few times to get it exactly how I want it. And when I've done that, I'm going to re-establish the neck. And get right up close to that. So we now have a contrast against the dress and a contrast against the neck. And I have to go, I'm going to have to do that. Seems a shame, but it's not reacting there somehow. I don't know why. Just, well, I've got your attention. I might as well show you how I can fiddle and make this work. So, and then turn it round and do the other side. I just realised that that's not as smooth as I'd like it, so I'm just work from this end, this angle. It's going to be, I'm going to have to fiddle about with this. I'll get there. Well, what I want there, now the edge of the neck. I'm going to have that contrast that I'm looking for. Got it? That's what I'm looking for. Now you can imagine this all over. The only thing that I can see now is a slight hiccup, is over here you've got it light and over here you've got it dark. Now, generally speaking, you want some kind of transfer. You either go put some dark over here a little or light over here a little, and then it looks as though it's going from behind. That's chalk and cheese. So that means we've got to work on that. Now, I couldn't anticipate this, but what I'm going to do is try to do something like that over here. But it doesn't have to be very far, as long as it looks as though I'm going behind the neck. It'll work. You probably wouldn't have even picked that up. I think that might be all right. If it isn't, I can make this. I can't make that darker though, otherwise I'll lose the impact that I've got there. So this is the obvious answer to that. Let's have a look at it again. Now that's working now, you see? You can see that, and it travels behind the neck. I might do it just a tiny touch more. Anyway, that's what I'm going to be doing, folks. I'm going to be working my way around there. I don't think there's any need to see me do it because I'm only using two colours, that one and that one, and adjusting it as I go. So it'll be really interesting for you to see it done, and I'm looking forward to doing it as well. As I say, I'm only going down to here. Once I finish that, I'll have the contrast I want at the top, and basically the whole of the top of the picture will be finished. And then we can start working on the lower part, which is still as interesting. But what's going to be lovely here is this dress, and the person is going to melt into the background here, like the shadow pictures I've done, with these standing like out very strong. Now, you witnessed how long that took me to do that. Quite a while, at least 4 times, but it looks great, and there's no other way you're gonna do it, I'm afraid. Um, but what I want to do now is to show you, while I'm here, how we can actually make that even stronger. Because what I want to do here, I want to come over it again, but I don't want it to be that. I want it to be light there, and then graduate. You put your own design in. I think that looks quite nice. Don't press too hard. If you've got a flat, which you should have by now, section of the pencil, use that, and we can come up like that, and then we can come just a little bit more design in it, like that. And then you can use your finger again. I'm using my index finger now because it's a little stronger. You see, now I'm just beginning to give a lovely cloud effect there, but I want it even stronger than that, because by the time it gets down to here, it's got to be quite strong. So I'm going to, and I'm playing with it a little bit as well, because once I get the idea here, I can go all the way around. A little bit stronger, maybe. See, I like it there, nice and strong. I think it might be okay, but as I come down here, I'm going to strengthen it even more. So I can put a little bit in to show you how that's going to work. Like that. But once you've got that base in there, you can do anything with it. But that looks really nice. But it took a time, so you can see how long I'm going to take to do around there. But it's worth it. Now, it's come up really well. Took a while though, but it's worth it. Now you need to go back over the edges again. I've done round here. Let's just show you. It does interfere with the crispness of that, so it's a good idea to put it back with the black I would use there. That's fine. Now, I think that's really good, but down here, it's going to be very dark. I think we need to balance it a little bit, so I'm going to turn this round, and I'm going to use the black up here. Again, do a little bit at a time. Don't go overboard because it will be too strong. And we'll see how that looks. So it's a little bit stronger. No, that's better. If I need it, put more in, I'll do it once I finish this. But the very next thing we're going to do are these flowers. Let me just remind you of what they look like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the 270 and then the white. Not that way, other way around, 270, then the white. Okay, so let's start the ball rolling now. I did put white on there originally, so I thought I was going to come down further, but I didn't in the end. And just do 2 at a time, 2 petals, that is. And you can see immediately the difficulty we're going to have, because that and that is going to be the same color. So as you go along, when I do it as you go along, just use the stronger tone, which in this case would be 229, and just to give yourself a little bit of darkness in there. Now I'm choosing to do the flowers before I finish this off, because the flowers are more important than this. That's important, but this is more important. Anything's in the foreground, which I would class this as, is more important than what's behind it. And now that comes in here, and by putting that in like that, we don't have to do anything with it at the moment. We can then put the next one, next petal, which is here. And that will be just a tad darker than that one. And this one has also got, now this is dark here. I think I have to sharpen it up. Make that just a little darker, but it's not as dark as the area behind. Which means we've got to make that darker. You see where I'm coming from? Quite hard. I still put the 270 in. And that will eventually work its way up to that. But what I'm really interested in is getting the contrasts between all three of these edges. White in here would be an idea, just to bring that just that little bit lighter. And then we can also do that with this one. Now I'm following the reference picture, but I'll be fair, it's not very good reference picture. Well, it is for the face and the dress, but not for the flower. Flowers are tricky anyway. That's going to be a little bit darker, but it's going to show up against that. I think I better sharpen this up. I just wanted to get started with it. And then what I'll do then is I will work steadily through this using the same principle. For instance, I'll just do this and then I'll break off. That is darker. Like that. But you get the principle of that. Now I'm going to bring you closer so you can see that better. I'm not going to worry about the background at the moment. The flowers are more important, and then we can close in on the background later. So, sharpen those up. I think I don't know whether I'm going to need the black, but I might do, so I'll sharpen that. And then I'll sharpen my 270 as well. Now I brought the dark right down there, exactly the same way as I showed you previously. But what it's left me with is just a bit scruffy edges, so I'm just going to show you this. I kept looking at it and thought, I've got to do something about it. So, and I'm going to show you how to do all of this in a little while over here. But getting right up close to this is tricky. So what I'm doing now is a very sharp 270. Don't use white here. It can take a little while to do, but it's worth it. Getting up right close to these edges is not easy. And what I've used is the colour shaper there. And I can carry on with that. Get as close as you can and then use the colour shaper to crisp these edges up. See how nice that looks, scruffy this is over now. Just in here. Another thing that I want to show you here, you see we've got this edge that I put down there, which is nice, but it runs into that point of that, and I don't like that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring this out just a little bit to run behind that, like that. Now, you could accuse me of splitting hairs here, but it's something that I like to do. As long as you're light with it. And see, now that's better. Now this means I can come around here with this and give myself a better finish there. Tiny little things like this do make a difference. That's fine. So I'm going to carry on with that. The only thing here that this is in the shadow slightly, and that's interesting. Let me show you that. Use the pointed colour shaper and bring it from here. You've got a lot of dark on here, so load your colour shaper with it, and then come into it. And I did do it with my finger, but it needs to be redone. It's got the shadow on it. And then we can do exactly what I've just done here with it. Use the flat colour shaper now just to repair that area. You see how nice? You could in fact use that one. I thought about it beforehand. And then we can come in now this time. I'm going to show you this. It's going to take a little time to do, but it's worth watching how that crisps up the edge. Now there's a break there, and it continues there. And there's another area that. So you're nice and close to this, so you can pick up what I'm talking about. That's black on it, all black. Now, this might be a bit fiddly for you. If it is, don't do it. But I enjoy this. There you are, that's better. Now, what are we going to do about that break? What I would do, I would link it up. Otherwise, it does look as though it's a break in the rose or whatever flower that is. So make it dark there, light there, sorry, and then pick up the light here, but have it as a link. And if you're really fussy, you can come in and temper that down just a little bit, as long as you've got the link there. Nice. Now here, we can, just on the outer edge of that, it's where the light's just catching it, like that. And then it fades away like that. Now that is really nice. Okay, well that's that finished. So now I'm going to continue with this. I'll show you what I pull away and I'll show you what I've done. Okay, now I've covered all of that in the 270 because I wanted to base in there. I'm not quite sure how much I'm going to leave coming through here, but you can see how what I've done there is I filled that in, and I'm going to show you how I did that over here. First thing I did is use the 229. Now this lady literally comes out of the background. So we start off by putting dark in solid. That will have black on top of it. But just there, she fades. That's the point where it fades off. So just rub that back in like that. Okay, now we've got what I want there. And over here, we'll have a pincer movement. We'll come from either side. Come in from here. Now, you're going to see traces of this. This is why I put this on, coming through. So let's come up from there. You could be really forceful with your color here because it's going to be very, very dark from here. But it's here where we want it to be just a little lighter. So I'm not sure yet how much I wanted this to be. It's a bit like that. You can just make that out there, can't you? Well, that's what I want on this side. Now, I'm going to show you this little bit, and then I'm going to work on this because it takes me a little while to do. And the black. And I do the two together at this stage. Don't do it all one, because we're working on this area here, and if you make it too dark, you can put light back on, but it's best to try, if you can, to leave the light like that. Suggestion, that coming through there. And see what happens when I blend that. Now you see how well that, you see how I did all this now. Took a while, a bit, and getting between here, I've showed you this already, you just use the color shaper. Get as close as you can with your finger, and then use the color shaper. So you see how that now is looking really good. As you come up here now, I'm conscious of the fact that I want that. Can you see that? Just a trace of it. That's what I'm looking for. So let's just show you again. When you get to here, this is a dark, like that one. So I shall make sure that's very strong. But when it comes down to here, this is all dark. Now, let's do, I might as well show you this as well, because then I can fill this in. I don't want to completely cover that, because I want to see whether I can leave that kind of thing coming through here. And I'm working in the line that I can see the shoulder. Down here, this is going to be solid. It's only this area that's going to, if anything, going to have more attention. Another black. It looks awful at the moment, doesn't it? When you put your finger on and start the ball rolling. What do I think? Not a lot at the moment. I think I'm going to have to darken that a bit more. I kind of like to leave maybe some of that showing. Let's see. You see that little bit of light that I've left? Well, I quite like that. Well, I'll leave it for the moment, and then I'll carry on with the filling all the rest of it in. Okay. Anyway, watch me as I finish this off. I'll show you little bits of that as I go along. Right, the last little bit. That's the black on and the 229 on. And that's come up very well. You really got to make sure this is nice and smooth. Now all of that is filled in. Right, now I'll pull back and we'll have a look at it. That's come up very well, but I'm not happy with this. I've cut her off too quickly. I suspected I might when I was talking about that. So what I think we'll do now is we'll play with it. I'm going to suggest that you use a 270 and we see what we can do. Now, all of this is guesswork because on the original picture I can't see anything. Now, I could chop it off. That's another option I've got. And that's still an option. You see what I mean? If I was to cut that to there, that would be quite nice. But I'd like to try this first. I'm going to turn it round so that I've got a better angle for this. We're still following her shoulder coming round, and I'm using the side of the pencil. I want to suggest that we can just see the shoulder or the dress like that. See whether that works out. Not bad. Not bad. The other thing is it would be draping off her shoulder, so it wouldn't keep going round. We'd have a drape coming down here like this. Now, this might not work, but it's worth a try. What do I think of that? Well, it's not bad. But let's see if we can put some black into. That's better. It just breaks it up a little bit from that corner. Let's just see whether I can. Thing is, does it look silly? Well, let's see. Try something else. If all else fails, I can just rub it all in again. So it's worth it. It's worth spending just a bit of time on it. Well, I think that actually works better than the light. I don't dislike that. Well, I'm going to leave that for the moment then, and see what I think. But what's important here is I've got to make my mind up. Now, the reason I'm going to make my mind up because this is something that's definitely worth a signature. And the obvious place is here. But if I put it here, let's say, and then I don't like it when I cover it up, you see, having done that, I still like that better. Well, I'm going to make my mind up. I'm going to pull back just a bit further, and I'm going to show you something else I can do. Now, there's the whole portrait, and it's looking gorgeous, isn't it? But you see what I mean? This is not working down the bottom. So what I've got here is 4 pieces of paper, and I'm going to pull it in on the portrait like this. Something I would suggest you do too. Now I'm going to cut a little bit of this off here, this end, like that, so we can still see the edge of the dress, like that. Same thing here. Let's just move in just a little bit, like that. And that's pretty square. I mean, I'm going to do this more professionally than this when I cut it up. Now it shows up that bottom being top heavy now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this up to where I think it works. Too high, we've lost something. Too low, we've got it back to where we were. So we've got to trim a little bit off. Why is this important? Well, it's important for the presentation of the portrait, first of all, and my signature, which I'm going to put down here. Now, I've got to make my mind up. I can't fiddle about. I quite like that, and that brings this into play a little more. Now, that little sweep. That, I think, folks, is how I want this to be presented, and how it will be presented to you when you see the finished picture. Just straighten up a little bit. I don't have to worry about this because my editing software will give me a nice crisp rectangle. That is pretty stunning, isn't it? I think you'll agree. Having got that, what I could do now is sign it. Now, there's a couple of things I could do here. I could use that one, which is the 270, or I could use the white. I've got an inclination to use the 270, so let's do that. I think I better sharpen that just a little sharper. Right, here we go. This is an ideal position. Now, I will probably frame this picture, but when I do, it'll be like that. So what I want to do is to come up into this corner, not too tight. There it is, and I'll start there. Yep, done. Well, I've really chuffed with that, and I hope you've enjoyed watching it. I've had a great time doing it. It's a lovely picture, and I think we've done it justice. And I look forward to seeing you again on another picture very soon. Bye for now.